Hello, this is Miss Schrader. Today we are going to be talking about pop art's most famous artist, Andy Warhol. My students, you need a piece of paper and something to write with. You are going to take notes, and when you're done, you are going to give me 10 strong sentences about what you found interesting, educational, and important about Andy Warhol. Now you can see from the picture here, this is Andy Warhol. And rather like Salvador Dali, he's not only famous as an artist, he's famous sort of for himself being a work of art. He was a very unusual looking man. He always wore his hair in this kind of bizarre style. He not only was a painter, he did work in films. He did a lot with celebrity culture. And a lot of his work, because it is pop art, is stuff that he did a lot of prints with afterwards to make a lot of color and like make a lot of money for himself. He was born in 1928 and he died in 1987. And he's famous for a variety of different artworks, which we are going to look at now. This is Warhol's painting Campbell's Soup #1 from 1968. And he did an exhibit in Los Angeles showing 32 paintings of Campbell's soup cans. And a lot of people were very critical about it, pointing out that you could buy an actual can of Campbell's soup for 29 cents. Um, and the idea was that they were meant to depict objects so common and everyday that no one would ever notice them. But Warhol ended up making them into famous images. And so people started noticing all the detail and things like that, and they become very, very famous. This is silkscreen on paper, and they did make prints afterwards, so you can actually buy a print of this. In the 1960s, Andy Warhol started something called the Factory. He took over a floor in a building in New York City, and he encouraged bohemian artists, strange people, writers, just anybody on the edge to come and live there and work with him. And sometimes they would make the prints for his various different pieces of art. They did a lot of film work with some really bizarre films. One of the film things that he would do is he would bring a famous person in, sit them in front of the camera, start the camera, everybody else would leave the room, and for 3 minutes, the person is alone with the running camera and they can do anything they want. Now, most of the time, the famous person would just sit there and do nothing. But Andy Warhol is also famous for a line that he created at this time: everyone gets 15 minutes of fame. So the idea is that you all get to be famous for 15 minutes, and after that, you're going to fade into obscurity. And this is a line that people use all the time. Oh, I'm getting my 15 minutes of fame. People who came in to work with Warhol did so hoping that his charisma would help them. He gave off an image that he just absolutely loved people, and then he would lose interest in them and become interested in somebody else. And this really affected a lot of their personalities. There was a lot of drug use, a lot of emotional problems. A lot of people who left there eventually went on to die of drug use or suicide. The lady that you're looking at, she is one of the people who worked there with him. Her name is Ultraviolet. Warhol did a huge number of prints concerning Marilyn Monroe. This is one of the more famous ones. It's called Marilyn Diptych. And so what you see is a series of, on the left, psychedelic prints of Marilyn, and on the right, in black and white. This was done in 1962. It's silk screen ink and acrylic paint on canvas. The original is in the Tate Museum in London. There are, once again, lots and lots of prints of this piece. This is another print of Marilyn Monroe that he did that has become quite famous. Once again, done on silk screen, on canvas with acrylic, lots of bright neon colors looking a little different. Once again, there are a lot of prints of this that you can purchase. Um, this one that I was looking at, actually, you can buy it for $12. Now, this piece is of actress Farrah Fawcett. She was a very popular, very beautiful actress in the 1970s, 80s, 90s. And Warhol did a couple of different paintings of her in the 1980s. This one is the most famous one. And this one he gave to her, and she had it hanging in her house. When she died in 2009, she left this painting to her alma mater, the college that she went to in Texas. And her longtime life partner, an actor by the name of Ryan O'Neal, said he didn't know where it was. He didn't know what happened to it. Not long afterwards, he did a film about Farah, showing their home, and there's the painting. So he gets into this lengthy lawsuit about this Andy Warhol painting of Farrah Fawcett. And eventually he has to give it up to the University of Texas because that is how she wanted it done. So the painting has had a life of its own after Andy Warhol. This is a photograph of Warhol on the right taking a picture. The man with him is the movie director for a movie that Warhol wrote. It was called Cocaine Cowboys. Doesn't sound like a movie I've ever seen before. In 1968, a woman by the name of Valerie Solanas shot Warhol. She apparently was mentally ill and had joined the factory and thought he was going to take good care of her and help her with her writing career. And when she found he was not, she became quite frustrated and very, very difficult, and she shot him. He survived the shooting, but it does appear to have affected his health for the remainder of his life and contributed to his early death in 1980. These are a series of Andy Warhol photographs and paintings that he did of himself during his lifetime. He was and continues to be an incredibly influential artist from the 20th century. Very famous. A lot of people follow his style of doing art. All right, my students, you are going to be giving me 10 strong sentences about what you have learned about the artwork of Andy Warhol.